Hello, hello, everyone. How are you doing today? If you are here, please drop a comment in there so I can see. Make sure that you allow StreamYard to send your messages through. So you can just do that when you drop some comments in there, it'll ask you about it. Okay, so before we get started, grab a piece of paper or your journal and something to write with. It can be something colorful. It can be something childish. You can use crayons, markers, pencils, pens, whatever is going to work for you. You can use chalk, finger paints, whatever. Just grab something to write with. We're going to do a little creative activity at the end of this. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I am Nisha Zachary. I am the COO of the Authority Establishment and the co-founder of the Conscious Leadership Network, along with Palace Dame. I help people put systems and processes in place in their business so that they can have more time, make more money, and make a bigger impact. And today we're going to talk about using creativity to do just that. Each of us has the power to be creative. So that's just something that we naturally do from the time we're born. And it's generally until about the time that we're 2. And then by the time we're 7 or 8, it's even worse off. So by the time we get to be adults, like our creativity and our imagination is pretty much squashed by all the things that the world has done, said, shown to us as we've been like making our way trying to survive in this big bad world, right? So all of that stuff that happens to us blocks our natural creativity, and it gives us errors in our thinking, or it tells us that our thinking is an error. So again, if you have any questions while we're going along, drop them in the chat and we will talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 7 ways to get back to your natural abilities and your natural creativity so that you can like really express yourself and start to like live the life, build the business, raise the kids the way that you have always dreamed that all of these things would happen. Okay. So number 1, the first thing that we tend to do is we tend to make a lot of assumptions. We tend to assume that we know what other people are thinking before they open their mouths. We assume how people are going to treat us and how they're going to respond to the things that we are thinking, saying, doing, building, or creating. And so we tend to like get stopped by our own assumptions. And you know what they say about making assumptions? Makes an ass out of you and umption. Not me. Just saying that. So we simply don't wait to have all of the information. So when you're making assumptions and you're essentially making an ass out of yourself for doing it, it's because you don't have all of the information. And the Bible says, a fool opens his mouth and lets the world know that he's a fool. And so when you're making an assumption, it's like being in that foolish place and making decisions without all the information, context, background knowledge, all of that kind of stuff. So you've probably heard the story of the man who goes to the bank teller and he gets his check cashed, and he's counting his money, and he turns around and walks off as he's counting it, and then he turns back and he's like, "I'm sorry, I think you made a mistake." He turns back to the teller and tells her this, and she was like, "I'm sorry, our policy is that you need to count it before you walk off. You've already walked off. There's nothing I can do about it." And so he looks at her and he's like, "Thanks for the extra $20. And he walks out the bank. Now, you can't assume that he is wrong, right? Because she made an assumption that he was going to say, he was going to try to cheat her and try to get more money. And he was simply trying to be honest. But she didn't take the time to hear what it was that he had to say. So we need to make sure that we have all of the facts and we're not making assumptions based on our limited information or our past experiences. Okay? So the other thing is we need to see things from the point of view of others around us. Everything that we see is not exactly what it is. So again, I love my stories. So there's this story of Pablo Picasso, and he's riding on the train and he's sitting next to this guy who absolutely hates modern art. He thinks it's like a total waste and it doesn't represent what's really going on in life. And, Picasso is Picasso and he doesn't do like regular art, right? Or what other people term regular art. So in his creative thinking, he interprets it the way he wants to express it. He uses his creative exploration to do just that. However, this guy on the train is like, no, that's not it. And he pulls out a picture of his wife and he shows it to Picasso and he's like, this is my wife. This is the way she should look. And Picasso is like, looking at this wallet-sized picture and he's like, this is your wife? And the guy says, yes. And Picasso is like, she's kind of small. So again, he's not wrong, right? So he's going exactly by what the guy says. Like, it should be a realistic view of, what's going on in the world when you're doing art. It has to be exactly as everybody else sees it. And the point is, you can't allow other people's point of view to distract you, but you can't assert your view on other people at the same time. So you have to be able to reach a common ground. So it's just a matter of thinking outside the box and allowing yourself to see things from other people's perspective and realize that your view is not the only view out there. So that's number 2. So we've talked about making assumptions and seeing things from other people's point of view. The other thing is allowing your emotions to dictate what's going on in your life and dictate what's going on in your head. A lot of people, especially over the last year, have gone through the yo-yo thinking. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. And whether we're up or down depends on how creative or how willing we are to be creative and live our lives the way we are structured and destined to do so. So emotions can distract you. They can be very distracting any given time, right? So my thought is, write out what's going on in your head, empty it all out, draw a picture, whatever it takes, but free yourself from the attachment to the emotions. And when you write it out on paper or you draw a picture of it, you tend to release it a lot easier. If you need to, if you're one of those people that likes to talk, which normally I am not. So if you're one of those people that likes to talk, you can always reach out to somebody and say, hey, can I talk to you about this? And once you've released it, it makes that burden a lot easier, and it allows you to release some of the attachment to those emotions and allows you to open up your way of thinking. Or having that other person's opinion, like we talked, their perspective, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, will also allow you to see things from a different angle and maybe get a better view or perspective on what's going on in your life and help you adjust your emotions quicker. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? If you're here or if you're on the replay, drop some comments for me. All right, so the other thing we need to do is getting rid of lazy habits. So some of our habits are just flat out stumbling blocks. We get used to our patterns, we get used to our ways of doing things, and sometimes our habits themselves become the block that's stopping us from being creative. So if we're used to not being creative, then we don't do it anymore. We don't give ourselves the permission to step outside of the box that we are in right now. A lot of us think that because we are in a certain position or because we do certain things, it's not acceptable to be creative. It's not acceptable to think like a child. And the fact is, sometimes the best ideas come to me when I'm out on a swing or when I'm going down a slide, or I feel the wind blowing through my hair as I'm riding down a hill on a bike. So it's just a matter of opening yourself up to new possibilities. Your habits are good for maintaining a regular sense of well-being in your life. You want to make sure you get up and you wash your face and you brush your teeth and you get dressed in the morning. Those are good habits. But the habits that are stopping you from living in all of your glory, those are the ones you need to think about and you need to change. Okay? So like I just said, I was talking to you about thinking like a child. And that's one of the things that everybody needs to somehow get back to, thinking like a child. A lot of research has shown that the average child at the age of 2 laughs more and has more synapses in their brain than the average adult today. And that's because there's nothing blocking those things from getting from one side of the brain to the other, or one point in the brain to the other. There's nothing stopping those things when you're a child. When you're an adult, again, life has happened. And because life has happened, things have just continued on. So again, because life has happened, it just kind of stops you. And our experiences tend to be our roadblocks, which we talked about earlier. But get into that place where you're thinking like a child on a regular basis. You know, get down on the floor and crawl around. Let me tell you, when I'm down on the floor building Legos with my kids, when you look up, you see everything in a totally different perspective. You see things from the floor level that you've never seen, like, or that you won't normally see when you're standing up and you're, you know, at eye level with things. There are so many different ways of looking at things. Laying on the ground and looking up at the clouds, you'll see something totally different. You can almost feel the earth moving when you're laying down as opposed to when you're standing up, because there's more of you like spread out. You're spreading out your energy and you're absorbing that energy. And it's because you're in that childlike pose where you're allowing, you know, things to come in and help you experience something differently. Okay. So again, I am all about the details. I love systems. I love processes. When it comes to having your business run smoothly, you know, the details are very, very important. But if you get lost in the details and don't step back and look at the big picture, you can get really, really mired in some muck. You can get lost in those details. And so one of the things that I like to think about is there's a story about, you know, a bunch of blind men. Who is it? John Godfrey, sorry. Tells the story about 6 blind men who go down and they're looking at an elephant, and they're each touching a different part of the elephant. So one's got his tusk, and one's got his ear, and one's got his belly and his tail, and so on and so forth. And they're all trying to figure out what this thing is, but they're only stuck on that one detail that they have, that they're privy to. That's the only thing that they know, understand, and can feel at that moment. That's where all their senses are. And so, you know, they never think to put all of the pieces together. You know, if you have this part, I have this part, you know, we put all of those things together and we get an elephant. Well, nobody ever stopped to see that. So they never got to what the big picture was. So if you don't step out of the details for a little bit and look at the big picture, I like to call it taking a view from the top. It's like that zip lining, skydiving kind of view where you can see everything. And it's like things, again, like when you're on the floor, when you're up at the top, you see a totally different perspective. So adjust your angle. That's the biggest thing. Adjust your angle, whether you're down on the floor like a child or soaring above like an eagle and really taking stock of where you are. Adjust your angle. And then remember, always, 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 this is the biggest one, so I saved it for last. Always, always, always think for yourself. After you've taken the perspective in of a child, after you've you know, gone to the top and seen that view, after you've considered other people's perspectives and stop making assumptions, think for yourself. Now, this is the last story I'm going to tell you, right? So if you think about the emperor with no clothes, you know, nobody wanted to tell the emperor that he didn't have on clothes. Nobody wanted to admit it to anybody else. Why? Because everyone was afraid of how they would be perceived by speaking their truth. And you know, so they just let him walk around naked and, you know, told him his new suit looked nice and the tailor was doing a great job and all of these things. So you're hurting other people. You're impacting other people's story and other people's perception of this person that you're not speaking to or not speaking up for, because you're not allowing yourself to think for yourself. And when it comes to your own business, yes, you may have coaches. Yes, you may have, you know, mentors, and there may be people in your accountability group or on your team that have opinions of how your business should be run. But when you think for yourself and you sit down and you like really grasp what feels good to you, what feels good deep down in your soul, that's where you're going to be the most creative. It's the thing that sparks your soul and just lights you up. Those are the things that you want to focus on. Okay, so the last one, the biggest one, think for yourself. Make sure that every decision that you make is as true to you as possible. Even if it's the wrong decision later on down the line, it will be a decision that you can own and you won't regret, simply for the fact that you listen to other people rather than yourself. Trust yourself, and even if it turns out wrong, it's not a failure, it's a lesson, right? Okay, so those are my 7 tips for being more creative in your life. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a piece of paper, the one that we talked about at the very beginning of this thing, and using whatever tool it is that you have, your markers, your crayons, your pencil, your pen, whatever you picked up, write down a single word or intention in the middle of your piece of paper. So like mine looks like, can you see that? Mine looks like this. I wrote the word leap in the middle of my paper. That is like my word of the year. So I wrote down leap. And then I want you to just draw doodles all around your picture. You can do like straight lines, curvy lines, whatever your doodles look like, just get to drawing. Just draw a bunch of lines. And then once you have those lines drawn, you should give yourself about 15 minutes and just then fill it in. Like put other words. Do like a mind map inside your doodles and then color it. Just spend 15 minutes just mindlessly coloring, filling in the blanks, whatever's coming to your soul, whatever's coming to, your heart at that moment, fill in those blanks. So like when I say leap, then I'm going to want to take action. I'm going to want to trust myself. I want to have faith. And then I'll go in and fill this in throughout the day as things come to me. And then tonight when I sit down and do my relaxation, then I'll color it in. So sometimes these things may take you a day or two to finish, but it's just a matter of like really focusing in on your intentions, giving your energy to the intentions of what you want to create. And also like as you're coloring, your mind goes into this meditative state. When you really start to block out other people, you start to block out other things. Your hands are in those repetitive movements. Things are coming to you. You're beginning to see things in your own way, with your own perspective. So when you do a drawing like this, it will allow you to just free flow. There's no structure to it. Like you can do whatever you want. Doesn't have to be curvy lines like mine. Again, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. But the goal is to put your intention in the middle and then draw, just mindlessly doodle all over the paper and see what comes up. You may find pictures within your doodles, and those pictures may lead you to your next step. They may lead you to, an answer to a question that you've had for days or weeks, or even just a few minutes. It can be like very clarifying to just do a little doodle. Okay, so try that. I would love to see your pictures. You can drop them underneath this video. And I would also like to invite you to, if you are watching this on YouTube, I would like you to subscribe and click the bell so that you can get notifications when we go live. If you are watching this on Facebook, I would love for you to click the like button and like this page so again, you can get notified when we go live. And then I would also like you to join us over in the Conscious Leadership Network. I will drop the link to the group down below. A 7-day creative journaling kind of thing. 7 days starting on Sunday, where I will just be dropping prompts in the group and we'll be like trying to explore different ways of being creative so that you can spark that innovation within yourself and take your business to the next level. So I would love, again, for you to join us over in the Conscious Leadership Network, and I hope to see you over there. Have a good day.